can I just take this moment to thank each and every one of you amazing supporters. This channel has grown into an amazing community of story lovers. I could not have done it without you guys. If you haven't yet subscribed, then please be part of this journey and help us reach new heights.
When my son Noah came tearing around the corner, his face pale with fright, I figured he must have gotten himself all worked up exploring the old boxes of junk in our creepy basement. We were still unpacking since moving here a few weeks before, using a rare lazy Saturday for me and the kids to play hide and seek while sorting through our stuff. I volunteered to count first while Noah and his little sister Emma ran off giggling to hide. "Mom, I found something scary." Noah gasped out. I smiled, thinking he let his imagination run a little wild down there amongst the cobwebs and shadows. But the genuine fear in his eyes made my maternal instincts kick in. I grabbed his hand and asked what was wrong. Still struggling to catch his breath, Noah led me down the rickety basement stairs into the musty dimness. Back behind some stacked moving boxes and rusty tools, my son pointed to a narrow opening in the brick wall I had never noticed before. "There's a secret room back there, with creepy stuff inside," he whispered. I shrugged, figuring a previous owner must have built some little storage nook or something. But Noah was dead serious, tugging me toward the hole, barely wide enough to squeeze through sideways. Doubts growing, I pulled out my phone flashlight and followed him into the cramped, dirt-floored space. The thin beam of light revealed a chill sight that stopped me short. A low table displayed an assortment of children's toys and crayon drawings clearly done by different small hands over the years. And propped against the crude earthen walls were ripped, faded posters of Disney characters and kids' movie stars, but not recent ones. Here is an extended version of that section. Noah voiced my own uneasy thoughts out loud. "Whose old stuff is this, Mom?" Before I could even begin to speculate, he grabbed my arm even tighter. "Wait, look." He aimed the shaking flashlight at a small decaying cardboard box sitting on a makeshift shelf along the crude dirt wall. I leaned closer to see the box was brimming with crumbling old books, leather-bound journals or diaries. With trembling hands, Noah reached in and gently pulled one out. The brittle cover cracked slightly at his touch. Opening it, the yellowed pages were full of neatly handwritten entries in the looping cursive style of another era. I glanced at the inside cover and gasped aloud when I saw the name and accompanying date scribbled there in now faded ink, along with a tiny purple handprint. Based on the date, the child who owned this journal would be over 70 years old by now. Yet this secret cellar space was filled with items that spanned different decades, belonging to multiple children over many years, it seemed. My scalp prickled with unease. Why would such a hidden room exist here, preserved through time, and filled with memorabilia from various kids, almost like some kind of twisted time capsule? My thoughts spun faster than the dust motes our flashlight beam revealed dancing through the chill basement air. I blinked hard, struggling to make sense of this unnerving discovery. My eyes darted around, taking in the low table displaying an odd assortment of children's toys. Old tin cars from the 50s, a weathered teddy bear, building blocks in a faded card game box. Drawings in crayon and marker were tacked up on the crude walls. Simple childhood artwork on paper now yellowed and brittle with age. I became aware of Noah frantically yanking on the sleeve of my sweater. He pointed the shaking flashlight beam toward the far corner of the tiny earthen room. My stomach plunged when I saw the papers and grainy photographs hastily tacked up covering part of the brick wall. Across this college was violently scrawled red paint in chaotic patterns. Markings that my racing mind could only interpret as intended to resemble blood splatters. Bile rose in my throat as the full picture sunk in. This was not just some quirky retro kid's fort. My throat went dry as whispers of unspeakable possibilities ran through my mind. We had to get out of here now. Back upstairs in the openness of our familiar kitchen, Noah and I struggled to catch our breaths and process the bizarre discovery. Part of me tried rationalizing a reasonable explanation for such a hidden basement room filled with strange children's forgotten ephemera. Yet the gruesome red paint spatters and my maternal instinct screaming that something evil touched this place overwhelmed all sensible thought. What exactly had we unearthed in our own home? What happened to all those children who left behind notebooks, toys, childhood artwork? I corralled Noah and Emma to go play at a neighbor's house, then spent the afternoon making calls trying to uncover answers. The local records on the house proved oddly sparse, almost like its history had been erased. And some vintage items now missing from that secret little vault Noah uncovered suggested whoever created it was still around and hiding traces. I barely slept that night as all the most horrifying possibilities played out in my mind. First thing Monday morning. Fortunately, my brother knew a retired cop who did background checks. His deep dive uncovered enough sketchy gaps to suggest something very dark in this home's past. But without evidence of actual crimes, our options were still unclear for getting out of this place safely. In the end, we left everything behind. My kids begged me for answers, but I remained vague, trying not to burden them more with the full unspoken terrors I now perceived here. We moved clear across the state into a cramped apartment I could afford on short notice. That nightmare cellar still haunts my thoughts, wondering about the fate of all those children memorialized in ways that still make my skin crawl. Every creak of this old apartment conjures thoughts of whatever evil lurked back there and what more we would have discovered if we stayed. I know we missed warning signs with that house's history, but when you're a struggling single mom, you grab rentals where you find them. Now my kids sleep safely under the glow of Hello Kitty night lights that I sometimes leave on when I check on their peaceful dreams. All to keep past demons tucked away in the dark. When my wife Leah and I bought our cozy mid-century home, we adored its retro charm and character. But soon after moving in, we started hearing unexplainable noises. Muffled heavy thuds seemed to echo at random intervals from somewhere deep below the basement floor. The strange vibrations creeped me out even more when they woke me at 3 a.m. I chalked it up to old house noises, until Lee convinced me to investigate what might be causing the disturbing disturbances. Rummaging through the chaotic boxes and stacks of the dingy basement, I assumed a pipe or old appliance must be the culprit. Then Lee let out a surprised yelp that made my heart skip. She had noticed subtle steams hidden in the cinder block wall, revealing a narrow doorway subtly concealed. Could a whole secret room exist back there? My skin prickled as we cleared away, junk revealing what looked like an actual entryway sealed off decades ago. The dimensions lined up with the area directly under our master bedroom closet, maybe explaining those muffled yet intense thuds piercing the floor at night. Heart pounding, I slowly pried open the stuck narrow door on old squealing hinges, revealing utter darkness within. Cold, earthy air rushed out, sending a chill up my sweating back. I grabbed a flashlight and crowbar, hoping this was just some quirky fun secret from the 1950s original owner. But a strange foreboding crept under my optimism. What if something more sinister lay entombed back there? Shakily, I stepped inside the black void beyond the bricks, senses heightened for any invisible threats. As my flashlight penetrated the inky darkness, details emerged that stopped my breath. This was no fun retro-hidden party room, rather a full-on Cold War fallout shelter decked out with stockpiles of vintage canned goods, cots, gas masks, and all vital survival gear. Extremely well preserved, as if the owner planned to weather Armageddon in this buried bunker, alone. How had we not known about this creepy place sealed off under our own home? Records didn't show the house layout, including any basement rooms. In fact, all history beyond the 1950s seemed oddly scrubbed. Had the original owner painstakingly hidden all traces of this shelter once the Cold War ended? And were they still somehow alive to have sealed it off again before our purchase? As Leah and I slowly explored the musty shelter filled with equipment from another era, an even more unsettling discovery sent prickles up my neck. Tucked in the far corner was a room holding ham radio equipment that appeared recently used, still hooked up to functioning power sources. This could just be leftover gear left switched on by the last owner. Yet being down here sent my primal senses on high alert for dangers I couldn't rationally dismiss. Who knew what secrets simmered in this buried chamber only steps under our home? I was shaking in the subterranean chill, now raising goosebumps on my skin as we hurried upstairs for daylight comfort. But Lee soon made another hair-raising observation. The heavy thumps we had heard for weeks aligned exactly with the location of this sealed-off fallout shelter. Almost as if something, or someone, deep in its shadows was trying to send us a message. I scoffed off my wife's spooky theories, insisting no one could be literally sealed alive down there for weeks with no food, water, or ventilation. Yet I still found myself straining to listen for any odd sounds emanating from below as we avoided the basement the next several days. Until late one restless night, the muffled thuds jerked me awake once more, like something violently pounding against the shelter room's concealed door right below us. Unable to calm my nerves, I went down to check things out as Leah anxiously called the police. Just in case. Approaching the hidden entryway, I froze as an unmistakable electronic pattern sounded from the pitch space beyond. Short and long blipping beeps, almost like some kind of code. The ham radio equipment I had noticed was clearly now transmitting a signal. An icy wave of terror locked me in place listening to the bizarre transmission aimed at an unknown receiver even as police searched the house minutes later. In the chaos of that night, we had little chance to relay every freaky detail. The cops rationalized faulty wiring, crossed to activate the old radio gear, saying they found zero signs anyone had breached the place in ages. No evidence of trespassers, carbon monoxide leaks, or reasonable cause for alarm. Just an overactive imagination, as they chuckled. But I knew even they couldn't fully dismiss the extreme creep factor of this hidden high-tech bunker somehow preserved and powered below an average family home. We moved out the next week, wanting zero part of whatever mysteries lurked down there. The oral history on the house dead-ended in the late 1950s when it changed hands under murky circumstances. Locals shared uneasy rumors regarding the original owner's ties to covert military ops that abruptly went undisclosed after that point. Records on the house went classified then too, fueling uneasy theories. Maybe we sensed those decades-old secrets somehow stirring again in that cold warren sealed away right under our floor. Communicating in code to unnamed others, waiting silently for a crisis to draw them forth. While others call me skittish, I know the vibes seeping from that place. Whatever purpose or presence still pulsates in the shadows, there defies rational explanation. And I want no part of finding out the truth buried in our own basement. When I bought my first house after scrimping and saving for years, I felt like I hit the lottery stumbling on an affordable foreclosure in a nice neighborhood. Sure, the split level needed some TLC after sitting vacant so long, but I embraced the challenge of upgrades and DIY projects to make her mine. The fresh paint and new flooring brought the open living areas upstairs into this millennium. But the 1960s vibe still lingered strong down in the knotty pine-paneled basement. I didn't mind the residual retro charm of the concrete and brick rumpus room. In some ways, it reminded me of my grandpa's basement growing up, always filled with fascinating cast-offs and artifacts. This basement came fully equipped with metal cabinets along one wall and an old workbench too. Locked wooden storage closets built into the masonry hinted at more undiscovered treasures or tools. Well, all except one. A solitary closet tucked away in the back corner had its door strangely bricked over, almost camouflaged to blend in seamlessly with the block wall, painted the same beige as the surrounding basement. Easy to miss unless you went looking for oddities and secrets like me. The day I noticed that out-of-place brick patch, curiosity overwhelmed me. This house already revealed so many strange structural choices and retrofitted updates to hide signs of aging. What clues might lay entombed behind that disguised sealed-off cellar? Adrenaline pumping, I grabbed the hammer and chisel, telling myself something innocuous likely got walled off down here over time. But why take pains to conceal it so fully? My pulse thrummed louder in my ears as bricks reluctantly cracked and crumbled, revealing an intact wooden door beneath the facade. I coughed in the dust swirling through the gloomy basement air, peering into inky darkness beyond the door's cracked opening. Gripping a flashlight, I steeled my nerves and shoved hard against the sticking swollen wood. The old door creaked open barely wide enough for me to squeeze inside the claustrophobic closet-sized space. Finger trembling on the flashlight switch, I braced to illuminate decades of hidden objects and secrets. Instead, my stomach heaved as the light revealed a figure slouched partially upright against the far dirt wall. Dust-covered jeans and filthy sneakers attached to a clearly human form. Shock and questions collided through my brain, turning to freeze my limbs and voice. No visible wounds or blood. Obviously dead for some time based on condition. I realized I should run get help, but morbid fascination rooted me there, leaning closer with the weak flashlight. Only when the dim glow reflected back the dull glint of open eyes staring through me did I jolt back with a strangled cry. This wasn't some random object trapped down here. A real dead body occupied this room, covertly sealed off untold years based on the 1950s construction. Panicked, I scrambled back upstairs to call 911 with shaking hands. Within hours, police swarmed my house, poking around the bizarre crime scene as I numbly answered the same mundane home-buying questions again and again. None of it made sense. Nothing showed signs of break-in, and texts confirmed no work done here to access or seal off that space for many decades, until my snooping cracked it open. When forensics finally revealed their initial findings, a fresh chill went through me. They estimated, based on early decomposition signals, that the unknown male victim had died within the past few months. Impossible with my own eyes confirming that subterranean space hadn't been accessed in over 60 years, half a century before I moved here. Yet for all the invasive inspection and intense scrutiny of my sob story, the utter lack of clues pointed nowhere. No signs of bullets, blows, chemicals, or wounds suggested cause of death. It was like this guy just decided to neatly tuck himself behind a literal buried door and die alone in the dark. Zero motive or explanation surfaced to make any sense of it. I cooperated fully through endless rounds of interviews, wanting resolution even more than the cops. But when forensics concluded accidental death by natural causes after exhaustive tox screens, the pressing urgency faded. Without even eyeing the John Doe corpse, the case dissolved into a creepy cold case buried in old archives. I sometimes awakened choked with questions in the deep of night. Who was that stranger who literally barricaded himself unseen to die in my house? Why conceal a body so thoroughly behind basement walls? And how did he manage it so cleanly in the state he was in? And the most unsettling question of all, if he sealed himself in that forgotten cellar alone to meet death, what led him there in the first place? And how long had his spirit maybe walked these quiet rooms before I arrived to finally reveal his body? Needless to say, I sealed up that basement space for good once cops cleared the scene. But the disturbing mysteries embedded literally in the foundations of my house still haunt me. I feel marked by stumbling onto that stranded corpse. My home's history, and possibly my own fate now, irrevocably intertwined with the anonymous dead man bricked secretly into the basement shadows. Thanks for listening in. If you like these stories and want to hear more, then please subscribe and like and support this new channel. We have more stories for you to listen to.